Third time's a charm. I hope it comes out right this time. Alright guys, so recently I just dropped a video not too long ago, maybe about a week ago, explaining my reasons, my 5 things that I hate about this bike. And in retrospect, I thought it was a little bit long. Hopefully I can cut this video down. And honestly, I wanted to get my negatives out of the way before I, you know, took a deep dive into the positives and the things that I like and love about this bike. Once again, 2019 Ducati Scrambler Café Racer, Silver Ice, blue frame. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and I'll give my first like or love is actually, it's gonna kind of offer a rebuttal to one of my criticisms. Now, in the video that I had explaining the things that I hate, I talked about how small this bike is, kind of cramped. Very narrow. It's a narrow wheelbase bike. But that's actually a benefit in certain situations. Situationally, this bike is very good for short and spirited rides. And what I mean by spirited, like curvy roads, nice scenic, you know, back roads that take you down twists and turns. And I'm very fortunate enough, even though I do live in Texas and it does get hot, I don't live very far from 2-lane blacktops that actually cut through still undeveloped areas. I love it. I hope it doesn't change for a significant period of time. But this bike, in its smallness, its tininess, its compactness, is actually very good at taking twists and turns. It's very snappy, very responsive. You get a lot of feedback from the bike. And it's just a fun ride. You may feel a little cramped depending on your size, but I will say you do ultimately feel connected. So yes, even though I made the criticism about this being a compact bike, its smaller stature actually benefits it for the more spirited rides. Second reason that I love this bike, and this actually applies to all the Scramblers in the Scrambler lineup, customization. I guarantee you that you'll find a Scrambler that you'll like. There's just so many bikes in the lineup, and then on top of that too, Ducati did a very good job with offering so many unique parts and customization. So yeah, you can truly make these your own. You can personalize them, change out the tanks, seats, bars. I mean, you can do that with any bike, but it's not very often that you have a manufacturer that will give you a catalog that's a little bit thicker than a coloring book, which are the only books I know how to read. But man, flipping through those pages, you see all kinds of options for these bikes. And then the aftermarket, man, it's going to be fantastic. So no matter what kind of rider you are, you're going to find something in this lineup. And I really love that about this line. And because I love that about the line, that's what I love about this bike. Reason number 3 that I really love about this bike is that engine. These little 803s, air-cooled 803s, man, they're perfect. They're perfect for the street. Good power, but the torque. Torque is where it's at. And I'm in 6th gear right now, and cruising at about 70, this thing can still pull, you know. And that torque is excellent for cutting in and out of traffic and getting yourself out of some, you know, very sticky situations. That engine is just awesome. And I mean, out of the factory, you know, out of the showroom floor, you don't really need to change anything about these bikes. Of course, part of the whole reason is, well, part of the whole customization and personalization of these things, you're going to want to change things. But man, once you add a slip-on exhaust, that sound, that classic L-twin sound, it's just, it's nice. It has personality, it has character. And like I said, once you add a slip-on, and I mean, it doesn't sound bad with its stock components. I have a video about that where I swapped out the exhaust. So currently I have a Vance & Hines high output on this one, and man, I love the sound. It just has that, it has that character, the same character that you get with like an old 1960s American muscle car. Chevelle, Camaro, Mustang, Chargers, Challengers. It just has that personality. And it's awesome. This engine is awesome. Reason number 4 that I really love this bike, man, is this girl a looker. She is pretty. Honestly, it's just a gorgeous bike. The Scramblers, Ducati did a very good job of lending kind of a classic aesthetic to these Scramblers. And to me, especially this one. The Cafe Racer, which has unfortunately been discontinued, is the, I believe, the prettiest of the line. Something about the aesthetic of this bike, when you drop the bars, ooh, careful around here. Swap that 18-inch front wheel for a 17. It just gives it an aggressive but beautiful look. And people love to look at this bike. They ask me what it is. They don't even know it's a Ducati. It's not the traditional Ducati colors. And it's just one of those bikes that you just can't help but turn around and look at as you're walking away. And this bike is just gorgeous to look at. And it gives you a sense of pride, a pride in ownership that, man, that's my bike. I'm so happy to have that in my garage. I'm so happy to be riding this, you know, beautiful machine. But that's one thing I really love about this bike, and one of the main reasons I'm never letting it go. Now the 5th reason is more of a personal and sentimental reason why I really love this bike. You know, I bought this bike not too long ago, but I had stopped riding about a decade back, and that's one thing I really missed. I ended up getting rid of a lot of the things that I owned to, you know, make my ends meet. And you know, I had ended up getting married and having kids, and that has nothing to do with it. Honestly, that's kind of the reason why I started riding again. So it was actually because of my wife that I was encouraged to ride again, which is kind of funny because, hey, you look all over the internet, it's like the opposite. You know, it's the opposite of what I hear or what I've experienced anyway. My wife actually encouraged me to get back on a bike. And so when I went that day to go look at the bikes, I had my kids with me. And I had already decided in my head that I was either going to have a Monster or a Super Sport, or I was going to do go the British route and get a Triumph. And my kids actually saw this bike and fell in love with it. And it's because of them that I actually got this bike. And I know I could have thought of many more reasons that I love this bike, but those are the top ones. And I know it's kind of out of place to put a sentimental touch on it or whatever, a personal reason why I love this bike, but honestly that's the main reason why I love this bike, because it has a sentimental value to it on top of it. This was the bike that got me back on two wheels. This was the bike that my wife encouraged me to buy. And this was the bike that my kids chose for me. They picked it out for me. Realistically, I had a far easier time making this video because deep down I love this bike, but I had to get my personal negatives out of the way first. And that's how you know you truly love something, though, is that you can see and point out its shortcomings, but at the end of the day you love it enough to recognize that and still love it and keep it. Honestly, at the end of the day, guys, I'm not here to validate anybody's purchase. The only person that should be validating your purchases is you. Likes and dislikes are subjective, but for what it's worth, I'm very satisfied with my purchase. Until next time.